A new group of goons has been brought to my attention. Ones who are supposedly at the level of our Lord and Saviors, Blast Entertainment and Phoenix Games. They are a publisher known as Midas Entertainment, so it's time to test their mettle in the gang wars in hopes of creating the ultimate tier list of all these companies, finding which one produces the most pathetic slime the world has ever seen. Unsurprisingly, these plug-ugly gremlins checked off the expected boxes anyone is prepared to see when delving into a location they'll get shot at if they walk outside after dark in the gaming space. We're getting Air Hockey, the video game that is as straightforward and lazy as you'd expect it to be. You weirdly get to select a character where you then slap the white circle around on your one table, having very delayed controls. For a video game that's having you drag a paddle around on your screen, you'd believe that one aspect would be top tier, prime time, sauteed meat. Sadly, the creators of this weren't too interested in making that a reality, but at least you get a bunch of crazy animations to look at, so that's cool, right? They also dropped gemstones such as Family Card Games Fun Pack, outing itself almost immediately. When you need to put fun in the title of anything, unless you're struggling to screw the cap back on a water bottle, everyone knows it's not going to be fun. How dense are we to these people? Well, apparently, we're at the level of sucking on a binky as a grown adult. Like, give me a break. A video game about playing cards, concentration on the television screen, blackjack with no real cheese involved. It's similar to giving me crack without the pipe. The last one of these I gave a try was Black Market Bowling, that just has you bowl. I don't know what's so black market about it. I don't feel like I'm performing an illegal action that only a certain subset of people are allowed to know I'm doing. But of course, none of this is the interesting stuff. It's more important to look at what actual video games were published or developed by Midas to truly get a taste of the Batcave, cobwebbed vajayjay they're offering to us. And the first bite I took was simply named World War II Soldier. Starting off with you spawning into a scab-filled cream pie that looks as if its belt buckle is about to snap. You're barely getting 15 frames on this bad Larry, making me worried about the upcoming scuffles. Thankfully, at the beginning, you're just sneaking around these smoky back streets though, either tasked to destroy all the thugs you see or simply walk by them. Regardless of what the objective is, you still need to ensure you're stacked to the brim with hyperfixating medication or some sort of stimulant to help you forget the outside world is a thing, because if you fail, you go all the way back to the beginning of the mission you're on. It's everyone's favorite finely aged cheese move to aid in pretending the game is a more girthy, extravagant World War II experience than it actually is. So I was stuck dealing with this alongside some of the objectives dog walking me. I'm getting told, avoid patrols, get the officer's uniform, eliminate guards at the cable car terminal. And it says here, you'll probably find an officer at the village bar, alluding me to find this location. So I began sneaking around the Halloween fog machine, hardly able to see anything, searching for the fabled bar for my new piece of clothing. As I was going around, I questioned if the bar was the brown building, is it the brown one, or the brown one? They all look the same. Obviously, while I was trying to find this building, I was getting caught left and right by the eagle eyes, forcing me to keep restarting since this was purely a covert operation. It was starting to piss me off actually, but come to find out after 15 minutes of waltzing around, if you go down this random pathway to enter the woods, you'll find a building with a cable car next to it. You press X on the door that doesn't tell you you're able to interact with it. A cutscene will start where you shoot a guard in the back of the head with a pistol. Uniform acquired. So what the fuck was that about? Hinting me to find a bar and taking out guards at the cable car terminal. Whatever. After I finished the first two missions that pertain to me being a sleuthing mastermind, in the third, real action was about to take place. I was now riding inside of a cable car going up a mountain with opposing carts skirting by containing soldiers trying to kill me. I could barely see them, so I just decided to sit in a corner waiting for the level to end. A move that worked stupendously. Next, I entered a castle, seeing how the Mario Kart ink squid came by to squirt its juices in various rooms throughout the building. I can hardly see who is shooting me at the time. Who doesn't love when basic visibility is a challenge? It adds to the flu patient sneezing into their forearm atmosphere. I inevitably made it outside inside. I entered a hallway and I'm dead, thanks to a white-shirted gentleman who had his trap laid out, pre-aiming the doorway, making me need to restart the entire level over again. This shit is really starting to remind me of Beverly Hills Cop, giving you these 20-25 minute long missions, having no checkpoints in between. It's unreal how obnoxious these missions are to do, especially here when health packs are very scarce. In this level, I only found 2 throughout the entire thing, so you seriously need to be careful while traversing the 15 frames per second Badlands. Mission 3 was a half-hour long escapade for me to rescue the general, who didn't even have a walking animation. The guy is just sliding around the floor. You'd think he's a goddamn robotic super soldier the Allied forces intentionally had captured to destroy the German forces from within. But I had to babysit him all the way back to the cable car, where we T-posed together in the name of victory, bringing us back down to a slightly lightened up version of that Find the Invisible Bar mission. Gotta reuse those assets, I see. When I loaded in, I had 2 enemies ready to rip. I shot them both. One spun around like a dreidel when he died and the game crashed. What a game. In this mission, I was expected to weasel around the level, continuing to keep an eye on the general, killing everyone I see. A task that is much more complicated than it should be while dealing with the constant frame rate dropping. It actually made me sick with the fact I was spending my night walking an adult human that is realistically a pathetic excuse of a representation of the higher tier military forces. If this googly-eyed Coke bottle glasses oaf is actually a general, it's no wonder why all the other soldiers abandoned him to die. He's aiming and shooting at me more than the enemies. Even with these difficulties though, I did of course persevere through it. After restarting the level 40 times since I or the general kept dying, I stuck a bomb on a tank, it blew away, level completed, to enter another reskinned mission, to plant another bomb on a tank, then plant bombs on cars and yet another tank. Finally escaping the area using a random vehicle that is halfway stuck in the snow. You drive away in a soundless, voiceless cutscene going straight into the credits. If this is the quality Midas is dishing out, it's not the most reassuring thing, is it? It's genuinely hard to say if World War II Soldier or Beverly Hills Cop is worse. All I know is that, at the very least, they're in the same tier. Upon completing a World War II shooter of this caliber, I think the only thing left to do is to take your boots off the ground to enter the ultimate mechanism of this time frame in World War II tank battles, letting you pick from a few different tanks before going into battle that you'll find out realistically doesn't matter. In your mind, you can believe the few seconds of thinking was important if you want to, but when you see the tasks expected of you unfold while you have a hard time maneuvering around the playmat tread battle, that hope will receive the at-home dental appointment curb stomp. I get we're tearing it up in a tank here, but could we not make it feel like we're assaulting Santa's village in the North Pole? You're slipping and sliding all over the place, hardly able to aim your shit. That can only be done by staring at where your barrel is pointed, cause they didn't want to add a crosshair on screen. Was this for immersion? If it was, why are my enemies generously stopping in the middle of the road, letting me kill them? Shouldn't they be huffing and puffing until my tank flips over? I never knew it was this simple to pull off the greatest military tactic in history. Just drive in front of wherever the enemies are going, they will be mind controlled to stop, then you blow them away. Why are we not doing this in real life too? If you're speaking on this from a video game perspective though, I really don't know what we're doing here. For a game calling itself Tank Battles, there aren't many battles going on. Almost every level has you do the exact same thing. You travel to an area that takes a lifetime to reach, you shoot a couple trucks or tanks, then travel to another area to do it all over again. If you added hyperspeed to the back of your tank, allowing it to slice through the time barrier, each level would only take about 2 minutes. Instead, they're taking above 10 due to this snail bullshit. What's funny though is that even in the missions that are more fast-paced, the game still isn't remotely close to being entertaining, cause you hardly know where your shots are gonna go. Every death sends you all the way back to the beginning, and each rumble just feels like Tickle Monster versus Tickle Monster action. version. So I guess you're not able to win either way. You might as well just go play tanks in the bathroom at this point. Bring a couple of those bitches in there, grab a toaster, plug it into the wall, and get into the bathtub with it. There you go. You got tanks versus the Phantom Virus from Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, thinking he's Shredder from the Ninja Turtles. That 10-second setup has more thought behind it than the entirety of this game that was sold for real-life money. However, if you for some reason still want to add even more to your World War II Book of Legends, you can also enter the skies with World War II Battle Over the Pacific. There might as well be a trilogy, right? This, unsurprisingly, is the best of the three games, which really isn't saying anything. All you're doing is shooting planes, boats, or whatever they decide to make you destroy. It had to be the easiest one to design, that's for certain. Previously, we had World War II Soldier reusing a couple levels, but here in Battle Over the Pacific, a majority of the levels have you fly above a solid plastic water look-alike sheet, dealing with the screen rumbling anytime return fire enters your vicinity. I don't know whose back this was scratching in 2006. The only type of person would probably be the one who's easily entertained or doesn't value their time. All I can say is I'm tired of World War II after that. I've had enough. I just want to spread my wings for the future using Stealth Force War on Terror as my catalyst. A title that reminds me a lot of another gaming heirloom, Fugitive Hunter War on Terror. So were they trying to copy the name of that? I'd love to know. When I opened Stealth Force, I got to see an opening cutscene that was using a few in-game clips they recorded rather than putting in pre-rendered footage. It must have been too much work to do that, and I also love how these guys didn't even attempt to make this intro interesting, by the way. They were just shooting grenades at enemies or missing shots, then calling it a day. Afterwards, you of course see the main menu that is stylized exactly the same as World War II Soldier, meaning it's going to be more of this shit. So all I hoped for is that there would be some improvement. Hope that was somewhat met, while simultaneously being a much worse game. Mainly because each and every gun is essentially a video game logic SMG. Using any weapon outside of spitting distance is not a viable option. You're stuck dealing with this disgusting spread, unable to aim down, regardless of what you're using, forcing you to either spray at enemies hoping for the best, or walk towards them getting close, still hoping your bullets hit them. My favorite part of this is even when they do hit people, there is a chance your bullets won't deal any damage. Who knew a gunfight in a game that is centered around shooting would have so many bones tossed in? Stealth Force is one of the few first-person shooter titles that have been released throughout history where skill literally isn't a thing. Every skirmish is pure luck, which is quite the issue when we have the Walmart $150 engagement ring stuck on our finger, locking us down with our lovely feature of death equals restart the entire level. I really cannot stress how fucking irritating playing levels in this game is. The worst one of all was oddly level 2. You're expected to trudge towards a building to then steamroll it, killing enemies you can barely see, of course. Eventually, you make your way towards a boss battle with Gene Okerlund, and this whole situation is just fucked. You have enemies head glitching in areas where you can hardly hit them, while you're getting mowed down in 3 to 4 bullets from every direction. I had to watch this cutscene of Joshua Graham getting out of his helicopter so many times, it got burned into my brain until I gave up and started using save states because I couldn't take it anymore. But even then, I was still forced to tiptoe around, jiggle peeking a wall in hopes of slaughtering Gene while his butt buddies were prepared to give me the business. At least I got more soundless action-filled theater though. Once that ultimate storm the castle mission was conquered, the following 3 were incredibly easy, or they were when I uncovered the forbidden esoteric family secret of when you walk to the side, not facing in the direction, you move at almost double speed. The evil stood no chance against Josh once this was discovered. I used it to summon planes to bomb a base. I traversed some strange bridge that had a lag wave emanating from it that led me to a building that fools you with enemy spawns. It seems that they're delayed, so the instant the cutscene ends, you die since these guys are holding shotguns. The only way I was able to get around this was figuring out if you hold forward during the cutscene, they don't spawn, allowing you to get behind them to gather your bearings. Once that was discovered, they were sent to a different dimension. I entered a room. Who's in there? It's Osama Sama, of course. He throws a chair at me, I snipe him in the head, we leave on the chopper, credit roll, I win. Sealing up yet another horrendous shooter title that I guess was actually trying to emulate Fugitive Hunter. That's the only other game I know of that has you fight Osama. It would be nice to know why they wanted to emulate a title that was critically panned snot picked off a grade school student's desk, but really, all these can be stuck into the coffin tier of gaming, buried 100 feet below the Earth's surface. So in situations like this, that's when you need to step far away from shooters and give The Sword of Camelot a whirl, sticking it into your PlayStation to envelop yourself into one of these dumbass cartoons that were stolen from Dingo Pictures, a company that just blatantly ripped off Disney cartoons. Phoenix Games also did this same thing, so it's nice to see it was a special move everyone was performing back in the early 2000s. Although this one I found does have a unique introduction. They're using a clip from a movie probably that has a person doing a voiceover who sounds as if they swallowed too much of a prescription medication, while you're still able to faintly hear the original actor on screen talking since they forgot to turn the audio all the way down.
Peasants, knights, kings, they all wanted me to help them.
When you inevitably see the cartoon itself, the visual quality and of course the voice acting is obviously stupendous verbiage and emotions spoken from a tongue of diamond as expected.
Oh, look, Arthur personally. King by Merlin's mercy.
Stop offending me. Draw your sword, or are you a coward?
Coward? Do you believe that I have not enough courage to fight against such a little upstart? Perhaps you give me your sword immediately, then we can save a lot of time and I won't injure you, yeah.
Big mouth.
Well, then we'll do it as you like.
Alongside the epitome of greatness cartoon, you're also able to color. I gave this wizard jaundice as he was rising from the pits of hell, if you weren't able to tell, and you can also work on a puzzle. I'm glad to know Midas truly knows their shit, understanding how to check off more gunk-ass boxes. They were dishing out plenty of cartoons, as with an abundance of racing titles. The one I printed out and stuck on my mantle to play ejaculatory darts with is International Superkarts, a kick-ass racing title that is having you struggle to drive in straight lines, and even added a fun for everyone mechanic where if you touch an opposing kart, there is a reasonable chance you will magnetize to them, unable to move, forcing you to wait for the game to fix itself. I wasn't too keen on fully enveloping myself into this world though. These goblins did publish quite a few racing titles that I cannot imagine are much different from one another. They just need to be mentioned. You're either receiving the quality of International Superkarts here, another one I played that had me prepared to eat a can of bugs, had the audacity to call itself the golden age of racing. You're getting this, or pure mediocrity, having you peel around the track, you burn rubber, you get bored after 30 minutes, where you might as well be fondling rotting foreskin found from a zombie you kill in Realm of the Dead. A zombie game before zombie games became an STD in the gaming space. Giving you a selection of 3 characters, clearly I had to go with Grease Boy, entering my new transient home. That is the first hack and slash title I've given a spin that is from a company who is creating arts and crafts using spit and dead leaves. I was kind of shocked my character wasn't tripping over his own shoelaces while his arm was almost snapping off as he windmilled his shit around to swing his sword. Enemies were actually being sliced apart in the most slow, clunky way possible. We may be free from the shackles of dysfunctionality, we just can't break through the 15-layered cement ceiling, ascending to a tier of game that is semi-decent. It does appear there were attempts to make Realm of the Dead more engaging, like adding unlockable moves and the ability to level up your items, but the combat would put a 2,000-pound bear into a coma after 15 minutes. The few goofball enemies that stumble into your pathway will rarely be able to kill you, since every one-on-one battle will result in you stun-locking them. I kind of figured the clunky-ass combat feel would make the game similar to running into a hurricane trying to dodge rain, but no, you can rinse the whole game dry, tie it to a pole, smacking its ass until it becomes a tomato, leaving you to decide whether you want to continue your apathetic quest of becoming the king of your own personal jungle. For me, rather than paying attention to what was happening in-game, I instead wanted to look more far into the development, which is where I unearthed how this is actually a title from the Simple series, another area of gaming Midas dipped their toes into. Simple series was essentially the gaming ghetto of Japan. All of them are lower budget shovelware titles that I covered in my last video, ironically, so it makes sense why a publisher at the caliber of Midas took a few of these titles and localized them. And with that in mind, we might as well give another one of these localized Japanese titles a college try, right? Here we got Fighting Fury, a fighting title that made me sick almost immediately. Regardless of the character I chose, it seriously felt like I was fighting underwater. Each and every one of my moves were delayed, creating this unreal, clunky-ass combat that was practically impossible to handle. It pushes you back into a corner, making you need to spam the same move over and over again to win, in order to have your own workaround for the hogwash. This, alongside how we're only rumbling on 4 stages, doesn't stir up the most extravagant stew that would serve a family, until I turned on the 60 Hz mode. Doing that makes a serious difference. Moves are working, attacks are connecting, and Fighting Fury feels like a real video game now. Don't get me wrong, it's still an atrocity that does not play well whatsoever, if that needs to be said. Whether a person would truly see this vanilla budget fighting title as valuable is purely up to them. I'm just more sickened on how Midas couldn't have titles made by their own people in Europe carry the banner, making a game that's worth a damn. 9 times out of 10, when I tried a game that was a bit off the cuff, not falling under the umbrella of a sports, racing, or tabletop game title, I'd play it, then find out it was released a few years earlier in Japan. One I tried was called World Super Police, where you're just driving in lines as a cop. Yay. In this circumstance, the only move Midas had to make was to hire someone to translate the text and also get some voice actors, and they were just fucking awesome, as you'd expect.
What are you saying? We obey the law. Justice is served by the law. We should never think that we are above the law.
There was also Deadly Strike, another hack and slash beat 'em up title with some real stank ass camera angles. They're switching in practically every area you enter, and it's very similar to Realm of the Dead with the oak wood combat. I think the best localized game I played though was probably Steel Dragon EX. It's a 2-in-1 disc containing the original Shinryu game. As with the sequel, it's not bad at all. Anyone would give it an average to above average rating. I'm not sure how many of these average-ish titles were localized by these ruffians, since contrary to popular belief, it is a possibility for a lower budget or shovelware title to be decent. There are games in the Simple series lexicon that prove that. It just seems more often than not, the localized titles Midas brought over were mostly the bad ones. I just find it sad that Midas had to get on their knees to slobber on the sausage of a Japanese kingpin to get the rights to deliver these subpar, mostly 3 out of 10 at best games. The only thing people were getting from their homeland was stuff like Daemon Summoner that doesn't even deserve an elaborate build-up. The second you see it was developed by Atomic Entertainment and published by Midas, then you see the save menu. It's yet again the same sludge that World War II Soldier and Stealth Force is, but it's actually worse than both of them. You start off running through the roads to then spelunk through the catacombs of God knows where to chase Emily while battling off ghouls who are making it impossible to get by. After a short time, you have your first rumble against vampires, and these guys are right up in your face trying to give you the fattest grandma smooch, attempting to bitch slap you. It took a century to take them down, which was questionable considering how it was simply 2 enemies. When they died, I caught up to Emily. She gives me a 2D fighter sweep. The next level begins, and voice acting actually exists this time, but you can hardly hear it.
Served as my passenger board. I would have to avoid detection inside the warehouse at all costs. What's on the ship?
This is a stealth level following in the footsteps of World War II Soldier, where you're stuck in loot box land, waltzing through the random number generator that decides whether the vampires are going to have eagle vision or they're ones who had their head shoved into an acid bucket to melt their eyes out of their skull. There's no way to know, you just have to hope. So I just use save states to mitigate this struggle I would be facing. Doing this allowed me to reach level 3, the place I discovered the combat is straight up broken. Unless I'm I'm fighting Jesus off the cross or some mythological warlord built from the ground up to kill, these vampires must have all their nerves in their bodies removed to where they cannot feel pain. There's no reason he's eating every bullet I have in my pocket, buckets of sharpened candy cane stabs, and dozens of crossbow bolts. Just like the stealth segments, it's all in the hands of the behind-the-scenes puppet master pulling the strings on whether your shots will connect or not. I would question if this was tested, but we all know it wasn't. These guys just wanted another one of their timeless gems out on the shelf as quickly as possible. In the lineage of the Atomic Entertainment X Midas shooter book, you go from sort of playable by comparison, easily bringing your piss to a boil with a few of these levels, to only be rewarded with recycled levels as you continue playing, to no recycling levels with gunplay that hardly functions and is completely random whether you win battles or not, then finally to Daemon Summoner, giving you the best of both worlds, recycling levels and combat that doesn't work a majority of the time. Good fucking grief. I sat there trying to play more and more non-simple series localized Midas games to see if there were any more treasures to be uncovered, and I was having such a difficult time coming up with anything to say about them. They're the most nothing burger, bland-ass video games that could be mustered up by a so-called group of talented individuals. If I had to pick the absolute pinnacle of the ones I tried, it might be Skate Park City on PSP, which I do find hilarious to say, cause I was stuck on one of the challenge missions for 10 minutes cause the tricks I was being told to do wouldn't work. Apparently, R plus up is a fully nude Arctic marathon that nobody can do. Disregarding this though, it is possible for a person to pick this up and use it as a toilet game or a little thing to do if they were unreasonably obsessed with skateboards. Not gonna tell you it's worth spending more than $1 on, but it's kind of a game. The rest, however, I really can't even say they are. They're more of a waste of time and space on our planet, polluting the digital world and the physical realm. Midas is responsible for checking off all the boxes for what you'd expect from a punk-ass company, with their crowning achievement, of course, being their publishing of 3 of the worst shooter things ever made, to be blunt, with everything else being the embodiment of every mental and physical debilitating disease on Earth. Are they worse than Phoenix Games or Blast Entertainment? Probably not, simply due to the quantity of filth being nowhere near as high, but they still deserve to be put into the pit of flames and be burned alive aside their fellow gang of European bandits due to their crimes of selling this month-old McDonald's fryer oil sludge to people for money. Big ups to all of our channel members who go above and beyond each and every month, generously supporting the channel even further. If you would like to join them and get early access to content, be sure to hit the join button right next to the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, take very good care of yourselves, and I hope to see you all again in the next video.